Okay, City of San Fernando Education Commission regular meeting.
Oh, hold on one second. It's not quite live yet. Now it's
Okay.
live.
Okay, it said live, I'm sorry. City of
There we
San
go.
Fernando Education Commission regular meeting, January 26, 2021, 6 p.m. Call to order, roll call. There she
Yes.
is.
Commissioner Olivia Robledo, and I
Present.
believe she just, there
Perfect
she
timing.
is.
Perfect timing.
Commissioner Nicole Moore,
Present.
Commissioner Suzanne Yamas,
Present.
Vice Chair David Govea,
Here.
Chair Angel Zobel Rodriguez.
Present. We move to the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Chair David Govea. Can you do the honors? Oh, you got to turn yourself.
Anyone have a flag?
We don't have a flag. Ah.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make sure for next month that I have a flag in here.
Okay. Yeah. Well, all right. Right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Beautiful. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
You first, Nicole second. Roll call.
Commissioner Robledo,
Present.
that would be a yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Presently, yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Yamas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Govea,
Yes.
and Chair Zobel Rodriguez.
Yes. Public statements, written, oral. Do we have any public statements?
We have no public statements this evening.
Okay. All right, commission matters. Number one, discussion regarding the 2020-2021 scholarship process and related matters. All right. Anybody want to get started? You want me to roll it? Just let it start as I get tongue tied too.
I can get started, Commissioner, since I had asked to put it on the agenda. I'm fine.
Okay, go
Okay.
ahead, Suzanne. You go first.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to give you a little bit of background as to why I asked to put on the agenda, even though I know it was going to be there. Last year was my first year where I was part of the scholarship essay process, selection process. And actually, I was very humbled by the group. And there was so much compassion and energy and the desire to do right by the kids. And me experiencing for the first time, you know, it was interesting. And so with my desire to do right or to do the best job, I have a couple of concerns. And I thought, no, I need to bring it up to the commission so that way we can have a discussion and see, you know, if I'm the only one with the concerns, fine, then, you know, we can just, you know, bypass it. But I do want your input. And I have two concerns, and I wrote down my handy dandy notes because that's what I learned that is helpful. Okay, so I have two concerns, and they're both related, really. So the first concern is I feel a need for a higher level of essay discussion privacy. And I'll tell you, even though the discussion is conducted in a respectful manner, definitely, I'm concerned about the need for privacy when we evaluate the scholarship essays. But this is especially during the time when we discuss the merits and the shortcomings of the essay, during the advocacy period, when we need to compare. If I have essay number 1, 3, and 5, and maybe another commissioner has 2 and 4, we have to advocate for, or at least what I learned, we need to advocate for the higher rankings essay that we have. So although the names are removed, and when we discuss the essays, I have the feeling that it's a possibility, and I want to be proactive in this, that there's a possibility that because we're on YouTube, it could be that the student can listen to our discussion, our selection process, and they can, even though their name is not on there, it could be when we discuss specifics or somewhat of the details or the areas that they cover, I really think that it's a possibility that they can identify that that's their essay. So my concern is if we select, one essay over the other, I don't want anybody's feelings to be hurt. I'm not saying it has happened, but once again, I want to be proactive. So I'm concerned that we have this discussion in public. So, and I know normally when I've been,
You accidentally muted yourself.
Suzanne, you muted.
Here you go.
was that Freudian or what? Okay. Okay, so normally when there's any kind of selection process, and I'm thinking about even my kids that I used to have a classroom, whenever we had a competition, a writing competition, we did the teachers in my team, we would do the selection process on our own, and then we would come out with the results. And then of course we share with them, the kids, what why they were selected, which is a good thing. So with that being said, I know the commission is a government entity, and I know there's regulations. I learned that there are certain regulations as to how our commission can present this information without having to put everything on the table, which is something I really wouldn't want to have, and I understand that's why you're doing it. But I would like, our commission to discuss this situation about a way that we can have a private discussion, discussing the merits. So that's concern number one. And then the concern number two, where I felt when I was doing it, I felt like I didn't have all the information to make a complete discussion at the end when we were doing the ranking or sharing of ranking and the advocacy part. So I would like, if it's at all possible, or I don't know how we can do it, because once again, I don't know everything that you've experienced it, because this has been in the process for 4 years, and I know you've gone through specific ways or specific things that have happened to where you have to go in one direction because you can't go in the other direction. But I would like a way, or I would like us to discuss about a possibility of, if a commissioner is scoring essays in one scholarship, what is a possibility of the two, maybe two, I guess it would have to be ad hoc, two commissioners having the same essays to score, grade, evaluate, so that way we would be knowledgeable and more comfortable in knowing that we have all the data to make a selection. So those are my two concerns. And like I said, if I'm the only one with those concerns, okay, I'll leave it alone. But I just would like some discussion to see what your thoughts are. And of course, it's a development process. Whenever we do any kind of program like that, things develop along the way. So I'm going to give it back to you, Commissioner. I was going to call you Commissioner Angel.
That's okay. I go by that too. I like that, Commissioner Angel. I like that. Does anybody else have any comments, concerns? Okay, so I can go next. I understand, Suzanne, where you're coming from, and I also understand the concerns, because we've always had live recorded audio that was available on the website, but I think the YouTube does bring it to a different level. I thought of one way of doing it was what you had suggested, which was assigning one entire essay, one subject to two commissioners, and that would be their ad hoc. Say it was Republic or it was entrepreneurs, and then everybody would read all of the essays. My concern would be that if anyone needs to recuse themselves, we won't know who submitted essays in each topic. So if somebody had to recuse themselves from all of Vaughn, you might have to recuse yourself from reading any scholarships if Vaughn students submitted to each. It might be a little easier if a student only submits to one or two of the essays, but last year we had a student that submitted to all but one. So there's a potential, we wouldn't know that till next month. We also don't typically have kids that submit to every single essay. So I see both sides. I kind of like the idea, if it's a small amount of essays, 3 or 5 or 7, to be able to actually read all of them and compare them and provide that better depth of understanding all of the scholarships in that particular subject matter. Conversely, if we ever return to the level of scholarships that we got for Gabriel or Elias in the beginning, when there was 30 or 40, I think that would break any of us, even if that was the only one they did. So I can see trying it for one of the topics, but I'm thinking we might need to wait until next month to know literally who has submitted in which categories and if we can even feasibly do it. Because I wouldn't want to see Nicole shut out of all of the essay reading. I wouldn't want to see David shut out if PUC students were submitted. So, you know, I definitely want to hear everybody else's concerns about it. I'm not overly concerned because I think last year we were very, at least for the privacy aspect, we were very much not talking about subject matter, even though it killed us because we wanted to talk about subject matter until the essays, until we had permission to subject the essays. We can also make sure that that's part of because that is part of the application process, that we have permission to discuss them or publish them, which would mean that. But does anybody else have any other comments?
Well, before you go on, I have a question though. Are we still in the process of not putting the names of the student on the essay, so that way we don't know who the student is? Are we still going to do that?
That is Julia's first order of business when she breaks into those files.
Okay, so then we would
blank out the names and then figure out however we decide to divide them up, but the names come off of them.
So then would it really be an issue of, say, Nicole or David scoring their own, school students if they wouldn't know who they are? Would that still be an issue then?
Sometimes the school's mentioned within the essay itself. And sometimes I think there might be identifiable characteristics. I teach seniors. So if my student was talking about something personal to them that I know about their life, then I think there possibly could be a conflict of interest there. And I would feel the need to recuse myself, just out of fairness. Mm-hmm. But even with the name not there's, again, still could be something. Like last year, I know one of our commissioners had a student who submitted their scholarship essay, and even though it wasn't mentioned, they could totally identify their own writing if they had that opportunity to do that. So I think that's why we have the recusal process, just to make sure there's no bias towards one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. So there is a possibility, or you've seen it possibly happen, where people can identify their writing just by having the writing out there. I mean, 100%. Just going back to my point. Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
Yeah. We've had students, and Angel's really good at this. She was able to find a former winner purely based on the prose. So someone submitted a similar essay, but it wasn't the same. The similar essay, just because the writing style was so unique the following year, and we had the policy of not giving a second scholarship to the student who received it last year, and Angel was able to identify it almost instantaneously.
Well, and then there was also the one that submitted the same essay that lost the first year and then submitted the exact same essay the second year. I do remember that one. I did forget about being able to pull the writing from the one particular student. There are some fantastic writers that come out of this scholarship thing. And that would be my fear, is that that somebody might be concerned that it is their student and doesn't want to rate them. I'm truly not worried about somebody submitting or selecting their student because they like the writing. I feel like that they would be more likely to not select their student out of fear it be their student.
Yeah,
And sometimes they do mention the school. They do.
Yeah.
In their essay, in the body of the essay.
And especially when they're talking about starting a club, or even if it wasn't your student, if somebody started the GSA at their school, you would know who the student was that started GSA at the school. That's part of it. Olivia?
I think Nicole wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Nicole.
Sure.
I completely understand what Commissioner Yamas is saying about the frustration of not being able to compare adequately. However, the one thing that I wanted to contribute to this conversation is the fact that there's cash involved in this, and that because there's cash involved, it's a lot different than if, say, we held a high school competition and we were just giving them, I don't know, books or something. But because we're giving out cash, I feel like that I think that the transparency of the fact that the decisions are made on the record publicly is very important. And so I would not want to have these discussions in an ad hoc, because like last year, 2 students from Vaughn did win. And I didn't know until the end that they won. And if 2 students from Vaughn won and the conversations were private, both Commissioner Yamas and I come from Vaughn. And there's definitely the fact that we come from Vaughn would be perceived as if, well, that's why they won. Or if you had a student who, volunteered for the city on a regular basis, and that wouldn't mean that they couldn't win, but people would think, oh, well, she won because she's always volunteering at blah, 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 or things like that. I'm just saying, I feel like that the transparency, because there is money attached, and I don't ever want to be accused of favoritism unfairly. And so I think that the fact that it's transparent is a really good thing. I understand what you're saying about people getting their feelings hurt, but I think all of us are very careful to be kind and talk about just the rubric. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing for people to understand what prevents them from winning either. My son is going through audition processes for ballet intensives right now, and all of them come back with we don't have time to give you feedback, sorry.
Oh.
And that's really hard. And if a kid didn't win, I think that especially if they're a senior and their parents live in San Fernando and they wanted to apply the next year, I think it'd be really helpful to them to listen to our discussion and look at, okay, so the ones that won really, really followed the prompt very carefully. Okay, I see how, and maybe they might be able to identify theirs, maybe not. But I think it could be helpful too. I think that we're talking about people who are 18 to 25 years old, not people who are, 10. I don't think that anything that we say is going to crush them as writers. I do feel that it is a little bit hard sometimes when you can't compare, and that gets tough. So perhaps if we just made it, okay, well, we're going to table these 2 and send them to ad hoc or something like that. If we really feel like that there are 2 people who feel strongly. I've only done this the 1 year, so I don't know if you've ever had to do that before, but that would just be my one bit. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
When we get that close, we usually try to find the money to give both. That's how we cheat. Go ahead, Olivia.
I didn't get the second point, Susanna, where you said something about 2 people reading.
Right.
So
the second point is,
isn't that what we do now?
well, no. What we do is, like, we'll say the Alliance Rodriguez Scholarship has 8 entries.
Mhm.
then from the way I was able to remember it happening, when they would come in, Cynthia would remove their names. In fact, I had a conversation with Cynthia because I asked questions to see, what's the background behind it. And so she removes the names, and she would remove the names, and then in order for the workload to be fair for us, she would distribute the scholarships to different commissioners.
Right.
So then I would only, for the Elias Rodriguez one, maybe I would have essay number 1, 3, and 5, and maybe you would have 2 and 4. So I don't have all of the scholarship essays in that scholarship to be comparative. So what I have to do is I need to be dependent on you, because you're going to share your ranking as to what the essay that you think should win. And then I present the essay that I think should win. And then we have to talk about the merits of the 2 scholarship and decide between those 2. So to me, that seems like just like an extra process also, or it's different. But I would think that if we had a scoring system, which we have, because we have the rubrics that were developed, that's really good rubrics. If we just went with that, it would be easier, and the ad hoc decides together as to the scoring, and being in agreement with the ranking of them. Then it's easy when we present to the commission. I would think that we would have, these are the scores of entry, da 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 da, and then we can say, and this is the winner of this essay. That was just a thought, an idea, because to me it would seem easier to be able to score these essays as opposed to talk it out between each other when I was experiencing that one.
So this is my experience, but I kind of like that we don't know who's been reading the other essay, and we don't talk about it before we get to the meeting. Because in the way you're suggesting, there would be more calibration, there would be more like agreement between the 2, what would be good. But the other people on the commission did not have a chance to see those essays, right? Because it was just done by the 2 commissioners, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we don't see all the essays anyway.
We don't see all the essays anyway. But what I like about it is when we come to the meeting and we put up the graph and we put in the scores, I am truly surprised sometimes at who is winning as I see this calibrated, as all the calculations go up. And then I have to sit back and think, oh, well, maybe, it makes me think again about my scoring and the kids I have read. And so it makes me, and maybe like you say, it's more steps, but in my mind, it helps my process be more true, because it makes me reflect in the moment. We do it pretty quickly because we get it all done in one night. But I think it puts an edge on it. It's like we really have to be very genuine about, our scoring, and we have to think about how the other person thought. And I kind of like that. And maybe because we've been doing it for a while, I think the first year was hard for me. But I did want to say I am involved with another group that does reading, and we get, maybe 60 entries. This is a Comisión Femenil. We have 3 readers for each essay, and we do the calculations very similar to what we do. But even at the end, we want to give them to everybody. We do. And I think that's how we feel in the commission. We see a lot of deserving students. And so that difficulty in making the decision at the end is hard. I don't care what system you use. But that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, and there's another wrench to Commissioner Llamas, to your plan about how to grade them, because there's not a single winner for each scholarship. It's variable depending upon the scores from all of the scholarships. Like I know that we have funding from different scholarships from different sources. And so because of that, there might be some years where we only award 1, why not you? There might be some years we award 2. And so I don't think it'd be possible to have, let's say, 2 commissioners work just exclusively on one scholarship and decide on who the winner is going to be, because we're still playing with the numbers, even up to that day that we're actually grading those. And that's because money comes in, we get a check from somewhere, something clears. So I do love how you're thinking about how we can be more efficient. I do love the idea of digging deeper into it, because there are so many times where a fellow commissioner talks about like this essay being so amazing and I just can't dig into it. I don't have the ability to do it. And so I echo those issues, but I think the system that we have right now seems not only legal, but it just seems fair in terms of the equity across the commissioners in terms of the workload, and just the speed and efficiency of grading so many, because yeah, some years, we get 60, 70, entries. And again, the essays may be weighted towards one scholarship versus another. So I think the way we kind of divvy it up just seems fair. And to address the first point about identifiable information, I think we did a pretty good job last year, really ensuring that we didn't give any info that could be identified with the student. And this year is unique in the sense that we're probably going to have to mirror our scholarship banquet in a very similar way. So even the discussion that's happening on YouTube, there's really no way for the public to be able to connect the scholarship to the student, because the way we honor the student is online virtually, and there is no connection to their essay unless they want there to be. And so if a student hears anything, I echo with what Commissioner Moore says. I think the feedback's a positive thing. If a student gets 3rd, 4th place and isn't eligible to receive money, what could they do better? What kind of feedback were we giving? So I think there's actually value in hearing any kind of criticism or any critique that we may have as a commissioner. And if a student's willing to come and listen to our commission meeting, I think that's pretty special within itself. So I'm hoping they find some value within that. So yeah, I like the fact that you're concerned about identifiable information or giving something away, because it is public. Yeah, this is unprecedented in terms of what we're doing. We've never had to do this aside from this in 2020. But I do think there is a value in having students hear discussion in regards to their essays, even though the public can't identify, but they might be able to. And
my issue is just it being done in public. If we were in a small group, if we were in a classroom, I would be more comfortable. But the issue was in public venue on YouTube. That's what it was all about. Yeah.
Cool.
I'd like to say one more thing, Angel.
Go ahead.
The other thing I wanted to say, it doesn't have to do with Susana's points. It has to do with, I appreciate that. I remember last year we had to move one student, I don't know, essay number 16 or whatever, had won a certain category, but the same person submitted an essay in another category. And so when we realized that the person would get more money out of the second category, we moved the winner out. And then we put the second and third person to win that first one. So I think that the commission is very thoughtful and wants to do the best by the kids. That's just what it is. And so I think that ability to be flexible and to move forward so that a student could get more, I like that. I really like that. So I just wanted to say that.
I appreciate that. Suzanne, does that answer enough of your questions for now?
It answers my questions for now. I was able to, listen to, your experiences, because once again, the 3 of you have had more years of experience there. So if that's what the commission, if that's what the direction is and the majority of the commission, well, then I'll go along with it and we'll do the best we can.
And if that's okay, and I will make sure that when we get to the month of reading, if you would like to help me craft what we say ahead of time, just as a good reminder about what to say and what not to say, because I know I did that last year, because that was the first thing I thought about, is that, in the community room in private, how we discuss the essays would be very different than having somebody literally on their computer watching.
Mm-hmm. I think that it probably doesn't have to be restated. Because we're all here. It's only going to be
true
next month or 2 months from now. So that'll be okay. Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
And yeah, I kind of like the idea of well, okay, either I'm going to speak my piece now or forever hold my peace. Possibility of just trying it with one essay? What are your thoughts on that? I'm just bringing it out there, but after hearing what everybody was saying or what the majority of the commissioners were saying, is they're okay with process. So I just put it out there in case anybody wanted to say, okay, let's try it for one and see what happens. What are your thoughts on that?
Does anybody have any thoughts on whether we should do it with, try it with one essay, with one category?
I think that creates the issue that Commissioner Leoto was talking about, that if the person that we, like if the person is winning in more than one category.
We wouldn't know until then.
With two last.
How do we know who keeps help from, remind me, because I remember the incident where I can't remember who said, oh, this person already won. Was it Cynthia who said this person already won? She was keeping track of it.
I'm trying not to terrify Julia, but there's a giant spreadsheet. There's the spreadsheet with the scores that go down and the rankings. And then there's the spreadsheet that has all the, that comes from the Google Forms that has the student, their grade, all the information that we're not seeing, their school, their name, their school, and which essay we're discussing. So if we're doing Republic and that's $1,000, I mean, the obvious answer is we do that one first because that's the biggest one. And if that student who wins can immediately be eliminated from all the other scholarships because none of the other scholarships are $1,000. So then we can go to another scholarship, and for the most part, we try to kind of do them, straight through, but Republic is the biggest one. And by getting that one out of the way, but because it's all in that spread, the information exists on the city clerk side, but it doesn't exist for us. But we are told that someone has already won, and so that person gets eliminated, and it could be your number one, and now you don't have a horse in that race, but that's okay because there's other horses.
Yeah.
So someone's horse is going to win. So.
And bringing up another question, you said right now that the names of the schools are on the essays. Are we still going to have the names of the schools on the essays, or are they going to be removed?
I don't think the name of the school. I think it's the student's name and their grade level. But as we were asking, and that's usually at the very end, sometimes we'll ask what school in case we have a preponderance from one school in order to spread it around a little bit. But I don't think the school's name is on the top. Is it, Olivia, David?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think
just
so.
The name and the grade.
It said if it was secondary or if it was.
Right.
You're right. 12th grade or college level, and what level in college, just because we rate the college kids a little bit harder than we rate the high school kid. But the high school is not on there unless we ask about that as we're selecting them. So
you just brought up an interesting point that I have a question now. So you said that we rate our post-secondary students harder than our high school students. Is that correct?
That's generally been the consensus.
Okay, so remind me as to how would I make sure that I think I know what you're saying. You're saying that be more considered or have it up more in the forefront that this is a college student. The college students should have stronger skills.
At least
what you're saying?
Grammar and stuff like that.
Right. We're not
mechanics and grammar.
Right.
Okay.
Not subject matter. Subject matter, but I forgive a few typos in a 12th grade essay. College sophomore, college junior, they better know better.
Okay.
So.
All right, you answered my question there.
Yeah, I forgive seniors for everything because I just the whole senior year. I mean, my daughter doesn't remember her senior year at all. It's literally a blur if you ask her. So I try to give them a little bit of.
Okay,
All
and
right.
I have another question for clarification. Can you see
Okay.
I really want to do it right this time? Okay, when it came to, okay, so we rank our students by the scores we give them. And am I correct in thinking, because I remember thinking when we gave the scores to our own students, then when we went to the advocacy period, if there was a student that say one of the commissioners felt that they really should get it, because of, say, what was in their heart for getting a process done. But the score of that student was lower than the other student who had a higher score, but they didn't have the heart in there. Can we still award the essay based on the score not being the highest, but there's a reason for us selecting it, the selection of the heart? Is that also part of the process? Did we do that? We did that, didn't we?
Yeah, that was the ranking. That's why your number one may not be a 20. Your number one might be a 16 or a 17.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not likely that your number one is going to be an 8 because they didn't fulfill any of the rubric categories, but it could be possible that your number one, the one that you absolutely were convinced is the best one,
Uh-huh.
could be.
Yes,
Could
so
be.
there is some room for that flexibility, but that's why, again, we have the rankings, just because we understand that an essay is subjective, and when you're reading something, the way it hits you is going to be different than the way it hits me. And so that's where the advocacy period comes into play. So the objective measure is the score based upon the rubric. The ranking is the subjective measure that allows your personal kind of feelings to come into play. And we work with both of those numbers. Usually, you know, the ranking, the objective ranking kind of weeds out a lot of the lower quality ones. And then our personal ranking is what kind of has us advocate for things. So yeah, there is that room for personal advocacy based upon how I think an essay hit you a little bit more. But it's usually within reason. Like Angel was saying, if there is something that we scored an 8, it's likely not going to be your first, right? If they wrote, you know, a paragraph and they had misspelled or didn't address the prompt, you know, if that's your first, like, it's kind of weird. But if you know, there's a 17 and a 19, and the 17 just tells a very compelling story to you, then yeah, you should be advocating for it if that's the one that stuck with you a little bit more.
I mean, there's always going to be certain topics that are going to resonate with you more than necessarily with me. You know, we have families here that are PA families, and if you're a PA family and so he's talking about PA stuff, you can't go wrong with PA stuff. Performing arts, math, science, or STEM kids, or you know, kids talking about very specific things that just, you know, I read it, it makes sense to me, but it just didn't grab me. But if it grabs you and your eyes light up and you're talking about it and it brings you that much joy, then I'm going to look at mine and go, wow, I read it and that's a good essay and I thought this was my number one, but Suzanne is convinced this one's number one. So I'm willing to let go of my number one for that.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay, all right. I appreciate the discussion, commissionors. This is very helpful.
I appreciate the discussion.
Anytime we re-examine what we're doing to make sure we're doing it the best that we can, I'm happy. Are you okay then, Suzanne? We're gonna go. It sounds like.
Can I ask how many we have now?
Yeah.
Well, that's where we're segueing. Okay. All right. I talked to Julia yesterday, and because we are in a transition period, were you able to find out how to get into the email for the Education Commission?
I was not able to do that.
Okay.
I can do that tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm also putting together a city council packet.
Right.
So I will work on that tomorrow and send you guys a email with regard to just a number of how many essays have been submitted.
Okay, and then make sure that we don't have any emails of anybody who is concerned that they haven't been able to submit, or any technical glitches with the system.
Right.
Okay.
And Julia, just so you know, we totally appreciate everything you're doing right now. We know you're carrying so much weight on your shoulders, and this is just another massive task, with you losing your support. But if there's any way we can help you throughout this process, guidance you need, feel free to message, text, or anything like that, just because we appreciate the work the city does on behalf of students of San Fernando. So thank you for being part of the team.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank you, Commissioner.
Make the transition easier. Please let us know.
I will. Thank you. Thank you for your words, Commissioner.
I have a
Go
question.
ahead, Olivia. Go ahead.
In the past, not last year, but I think maybe the year before, I'm not sure. But in the past, when we didn't have enough submitted in all the categories, we have moved the date. So I just want to know how after we find out the numbers, will we have a mechanism to change the date, or we just have to go with the date as it is?
We have, the date is in February. I think it's February. I don't have a calendar in front of me. 19th, which is the Friday. Our meeting would be Tuesday, the 22nd, 3rd, 23rd. If we decide there aren't enough, we could extend it at that point.
Okay.
So we have that option if we have to. And more importantly, that was my next question is we need to make sure we're reaching out to all of the high schools one more time. I know I've talked to Angie at ACE, and I will remind, I can reach out if anybody else would like to help me reach out to the high schools and touch base and make sure that they are that they're aware of the deadline. I was very excited to hear that some of the schools were actually having the kids work on them in homeroom. So we should have some, but we have more categories. So I want to make sure we have. All right, Olivia.
I called Freddie Ortiz today because I used to work with him. So he's told me that they have it on their website, they have it on Instagram, they have it Facebook.
Fantastic.
And he said that the counselors are aware of it. And so anyway, I told him I was just calling to encourage him.
To nudge. You're nudging. We like nudging.
I used to work with him, so I felt comfortable doing that. So.
And I have emailed everyone, including Sylmar and San Fernando, knowing that they're not all eligible, but some are eligible. So I'm hoping that we do receive enough that we feel that we can go. If we decide that we're comfortable taking some of the essays now and then moving them forward, we can do that too. But let's get to February and see. It is a difficult time for everybody, so I don't want to assume that everybody's on a natural timeline. I know they're not.
I can call Mr. Wright at Sylmar.
Yes.
I will call him.
Okay. That would be fantastic.
I'll remind the Puck schools, Lakeview and Tri-Fi.
Very, very, very much appreciated.
I'll continue to work on the Vaughn kids, obviously.
And I can call San Fernando. I know the principal very well.
Okay, thank you. Then I will take care of CCLA.
Okay.
Nicole, we love that you nag. It's okay. We won't even call that nudge. That's nag. You're okay if they're your kids, David. That's nag. If it's completely okay if they're your kids, if you need to nag. Let's see what other else. We don't need to talk about it today. We can definitely talk about it next month, but be mindful about whether you do need to recuse or if you have to recuse. I think this is the first year since the beginning that I don't have any kids or know of any kids that are graduating. So that's exciting for me. I don't think I will be recusing from anywhere, but if I finally realize that I do know somebody, I will, but I won't have to recuse from an entire school. I won't have to recuse from the entire Northeast Valley. But by next month, if everybody can be aware of what they want, what they feel comfortable, if they need to recuse. I need to learn to read and write better because I can't read my own writing. David, does the form, speaking of supporting Julia, does the form automatically negate if it's a low enough word count?
It doesn't. No. Okay. So we had issues with that because the system that Google uses is a character count
Oh,
versus
okay.
a word count.
It's not a word count. Okay.
Yeah, the way we did word count last time around was we transferred the form over to a doc, and then within that, there's a pretty simple way of checking that. But there is a mechanism in Google Forms to, you must submit a certain number of characters, but we've done that in the past. I've done it myself. It is always nice when the deputy city clerk was doing the word counting for us and eliminating them, but that we can handle that ourselves. If the file is accessible, because I know we were sent in PDF form, and I don't know if there's a way to do a word count in PDF. If there is, let me know, because I know the files that we got weren't accessible documents, and that's the way I would do a word count typically, either in Microsoft Word or.
You can cut and paste. That's how I did it.
Well, commissioners, there's actually a way that you can convert your PDF into a Word document. I do it all the time. It doesn't really lose any of the information at all. If anything, it loses certain characters that are typed in, but for the most part, all the words are there. So as we get to that point, I can either individually teach each one of you, or if you choose to cut and paste, that's your option as well.
Okay. All right, the next
I
meeting.
have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. In regards to that process, if there are too many words, what do you normally do?
The too short, basically you can choose to read them or not, or rate them down for not making it. The AP version, the SAT version of too long is you get to the point where you realize it's 1,000 words and you draw a line. It's like they get 10%, like a 10% cushion, and then anything after that you just don't read. So it's you can handle it any way you want, but I mean you'll 250 words is supposed to be 1 page double spaced, so 500 words is 2 pages double spaced. They're very rarely 4 or 5 pages. They're very rarely much longer than that. If one starts to look like it's a term paper they've submitted, it's happened. It has happened. You are welcome to get to a point where you know that it's way over 1,000 and you're being polite and you can give it like 10%. And then after that, you start to hem and haw, because again, it's the rubric is we're asking you to fill in these parameters. That's all we're asking. So.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other suggestions on that? We don't usually have too much problem with going way over. That is not usually the issue. It was definitely more of a problem with under, and then we kind of made that clear too. So.
So then we are responsible for making sure that it's within the word count guidelines. And so it doesn't, Julia doesn't do it, we'll do it, correct? For whatever essays we have.
We will do that, and next month when we're just about to assign the essays, then we'll go through all that reminders. Some people may choose to read something that's 498 words. I'm not a 500, 501 person, but starting at 480 and less than that, then that's my take on it. But that's where the ratings and the rubric will come in handy for how people follow the rules.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Do we have any other additional scholarship process information for this point? Wait till next month and hope. Go ahead, Olivia.
I don't know. I told a community person about these scholarships and she had never heard of them. And she's pretty active in the community. So then I, went to open it up so I could tell her how to get to the page and so forth. I know you have to go to what's new and then but how would anybody know that? like in the community. So then I was wondering, could there be like a little sentence or something on the front page? And I'm saying, I'm giving that as a suggestion in case we don't get enough, submissions. If we get a lot, then I think there's no problem. But really, I mean, how would anybody know that it's in that corner? I don't know.
It's a direct link from the social media.
Right.
And
I'm saying, when I told my friend
Mhm.
that because she said something about when it's, she was asking about essays in the community because parents have been asking her. I said, oh, just go to the San Fernando website. And then I said, I better check it again. So I went to this website, and of course it wasn't on the front page. So I looked around, and so I found it. But how would a person in the community know that? I know that on social media, of course, they go directly to it. But if they're not on social media, how would they know about it? I'm just bringing that up. I don't know.
Can we put a banner up at, I'm looking at our webpage right now. And normally they have, you can put banners up. In fact, I thought I saw one earlier today, but maybe it was more into the website. But can't we just put a banner up and say the scholarships available, 21 scholarships available? I could have sworn I saw one, but I guess I don't know where I saw it. But look, opening it up right now, I don't see it here. So you've got a valid point.
And I don't know,
Okay.
Julia, does ethical, who manages or makes the decision on what's on the front pages? Is the council?
No, not the council. The city manager works with Julie, who manages our website.
Got it.
And yeah, and currently their focus is, of course, on all of the COVID new stay-at-home, not stay-at-home orders now.
The stay-at-home.
Yeah.
Right, not stay-at-home orders.
Stay home less or something.
Right, and I can speak to city manager and see how he feels about putting a link on the homepage. We can also ask, well, if the person isn't on social media, doing a social media additional campaign won't help that issue.
Right.
I can double check with the city manager and Julie and see how and if they want to add if they can add a link to the front page. That way it's just easy for people to access that information. Otherwise, our website gets very busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get
Right. And it is already filled with a lot of information on the front page.
Right.
Right.
And I found the page I was talking about. It's a nice flyer, Can you see? You can't see. It's right there. And it's attractive, but it is way down because there are a lot of activities happening. So it is way down there.
Right.
And what's
Could it be on our commission page? Like where it's like you go to commissions and then you click education and it's all tab, 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 tab. Could it be like underneath the education commission page, there's also like scholarship?
Well, but the point I have is the public. How would the public know that? So when the public goes to the front page of the, you kind of get an overview of what's happening in the city. And this would be only temporarily. I mean, just maybe a month that you would put, say, a little banner or a little link. It doesn't have to be big, but it would, kind of help. Again, if it is that, like in other years, we have experience where we don't have enough essays submitted, so. Something to think about.
Yeah, if it's possible, know that the PDF was submitted to all 4 high schools at CCLA to the college counselor or the principal at Sylmar, Biotech, San Fernando, Alamany. It's been given to the people at the schools that the students are most likely to go to, that I send it to personally. And, those are the people that either put the scholarship letter in front of kids and say, do the thing, or it's up at the college counseling office.
Right.
In previous years, when we were allowed to go outside of the city of San Fernando, I sent it to every school on the east side of the valley. But at this point, I'm trying to be a little bit more realistic because I don't want to send it to a high school where there's very few students that are going to be eligible for it.
I think the other reason I bring it up and the front page is this. I think that it helps the image of the city when people know that we're doing that work. So we in the commission, we experience joy doing this work. But again, sometimes when we don't advertise this as a city, people aren't aware of it. And then when they hear about it, they're like, why don't I know about this? Or, that's a great thing that the city, that's exactly what my friend said, so that's a wonderful thing the city's doing. Why don't we know this? And so again, when you talk to Nick, he might think about the image of the city and a good thing that the city is doing among the other things. Because I know that other page where, there's a bunch of things that are offered by the city. So that's another suggestion.
Nicole?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, let Nicole.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be totally crazy to put up a giant sign at the park where they're doing COVID testing? I mean, a sign can't cost that much, like, especially if we just do it with poster board and laminate or something. I don't know. But some big sign where people are sitting in their car waiting that's like, do you have a college student living?
Great.
So be mindful of our sign regulations.
No.
Yeah, be mindful of the sign regulations. I'll definitely advocate for maybe just a little radio button on our homepage that is, alerting everyone, here we are, it's scholarship season. I really don't think that city manager is going to have an issue with it. As you mentioned, it is temporary, and the more positive advertisement we get out there, the better we are.
That is a good point, though. In working with a project at WAN, we had to work electronically versus in person, with the COVID situation going on. And we had found that just electronically, we didn't get a good response the way we got when we worked with signs or people coming in. So that's a valid suggestion, Commissioner Moore, about putting out the hard copy or even the temporary sign. So I appreciate the button, Julia, because here you're doing anything you can do. But if there was any way possible that we could do a sign, even if it's right there on First Street, where, people who drive by Maclay, they always look at least, knowing we do, we always look to see what's going on with City Hall or the police department. And right there in the corner, there's a possibility for a sign, but saying there's regulations, what can we do and in the time period that we have. But that's a good idea, maybe even for next year.
Well, and also there's a cost involved in printing the banner. I know even through elections, it isn't a cheap process. It's a little bit costly. If any one of you would like to investigate and research the cost and such involved, it might be too late though by then, because we only have less than a month left to submit their essays. I think that I would recommend, if once I get the numbers out of the Google Docs to see if there is a good amount of submissions, we can take it from there as far as further advertisement. But I'm still going to request if we can put a little link on the home site of our webpage.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
I'm thinking about the thing that always says about the no parking or the fireworks or the the police blinky sign. I'm sure that's a hard no, but I just suddenly think, wow, that'd be really cool. I'd go pose by the sign, that giant orange sign, like, oh, what's important in the city? When we make that sign, then we know we have arrived. I also think we reached out to Boys and Girls Club. So that was another one that I reached out to. So
Good.
so hopefully when we find out our numbers are fantastic. They never come in until the very end. And that doesn't matter how prepared we get them, the kids always wait. That's just kind of being young and time management. So, but hopefully we have some. I know we had some last month, so that's already a start. Do we have any other questions, any other comments we want to talk about before we move on to number 2?
I'm okay.
In addition, I can mention it during staff communications at the city council meeting on Monday night.
Great.
In case there are those watchers who are not on
That
social
would be
media.
fantastic. Also, in case any of our city council members have anybody that they want to nudge.
Absolutely.
So we are all about the nudge right now. All right, so then number 2, discussion and selection for February 2021 Student of the Month.
Great, so I'll take it. All right, guys, so really good news. We received 9 applicants or nominees for Student of the Month. And surprisingly, the vast majority of them were from elementary schools. So respect for the, I don't know, Commissioner Moore, if that was you who individually reached out to that, but it was really sweet to read some of these. And so for the sake of time and brevity, Commissioner Moore and I met and we talked about which ones stood out to us. We had a consensus on one of them. So I'll go ahead and read that. And then the second one, we would love some commissioner input to see which one you guys think. Because what was that? I'm sorry.
So grab a
What was
tissue.
that?
You're going
Grab a tissue. Okay, thanks for the warning. I got it. We're good.
Okay, so this is the one that we both agreed. It stood out to us. So let me expand this a little bit. And in the future,
Did you want me to
I'll make
share
sure
your
that-
screen?
It's okay. I think just for,
Okay.
I can read that. So, to have their first experiences in school, sorry. Okay.
Commissioner
To have their
Gouveia,
first experience.
you're bleeping out a little bit. Perhaps it's your internet connection, but is anyone else having trouble hearing him?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think he just stopped, but I want
Okay.
to.
Okay, I'm gonna read if I am
He's a
blipping out.
You're
Just
good right now. Go.
Okay.
Go.
Understand though, she's a kindergartner. That sets the whole context. Go ahead.
Yes, it's a kindergartner. Okay, so to have their first experience in school being virtual has been very hard on the little students. They've waited forever to go to school and meet friends, and they have not had the chance. While Mia has helped the teachers and the peers get comfortable and chat with each other, we would do play groups and try to get the kids to talk in small groups, but they only would ever interact with us. Mia took it on to call out kids and motivate them to talk. She would tell them all how, don't be worried. She says she has their back. She's their friend, and many started to open up. Mia is only a little girl, but during our breaks, she would see friends sitting there and get them to communicate. These kids have never met each other, but she really has helped many of them feel comfortable and do something no teacher could do. We can walk away and hear the little girl leading conversations with groups of kids. On top of that, she's doing all of her work on Zoom alone with her mom is working and her sister's isolated with COVID. She never misses a day, an assignment, and she is so focused on social emotional lessons and current events. How amazing is this kid to hear that kindergartner, right? Just the emotional maturity. So for February, guys, our theme was kindness, allies, caring. And so I think you can see why we both kind of gravitated towards Mia. Commissioner Moore, do you want to read the student that you felt, do you have it in front of you, or would you like me to read it for you?
I don't have it up right now. I just have the agenda. Sorry.
Okay, so we need the commission's help between these two. So this next student, Natalia, she is, grade. I don't have her grade yet, but she's younger. She's kindergarten also, correct?
Yes.
I believe so. So Natalia always uses loving and caring words towards others. She's always expressing her love towards others or sharing how she likes someone's clothes or hair. She draws pictures of her friends and writes sentences. She's respectful, loving, kind, and likes to help her friends and teachers. So that was one of the applicants. The other one was Fatima, who I believe is a third grade. Fatima is a very kind and welcoming student in our class. She is a problem solver and is always trying to find ways to assist your classmates, whether it be dealing with the sadness or helping with a technology issue. She uses kind, sensitive words of encouragement towards her classmates and sets a wonderful example in both academics and citizenship. She adds joy and positivity to our class every day. So, Commission, do you have, were you drawn to either of these stories? I liked them both. And
I
after reading
leaned
them,
towards Natalia because I thought it was so sweet that she compliments kids on Zoom. She's a kindergartner. The fact that she, you know, to gift your friends when you don't actually physically see them, to draw pictures for them and compliment their clothes is very, that's pretty cute. So
the kids don't know each other. Like, that's what's really fascinating. They haven't met and played in small groups, and yet she's still managing to be that role, which is really fascinating.
So it would be 2 kindergartners?
So it would be 2 kindergartners if we go with the
That would be like the cuteness overload for the city council meeting.
unless we go with Fatima, who is in 4th grade, which is the other one about how she is sensitive and helps people with technology issues.
All right.
Does anybody have any other opinions?
Well, I just want to say that for kindergarten, I think that
This is hard.
they actually have a gift because no one's taught them to do that. You know, when you're in school, 1st grade, I see the lessons my granddaughter gives. You get lessons on how to be kind and how to, you know.
They're socialized. They're socialized in school.
Right, you're socialized by the instruction you get from your principal, your teacher. But kindergartners, they haven't had that yet. So I think that for me, that's the outstanding part of this. That means some parents were busy for the 5 years before or 4 years. And I think it shows. And I think that they deserve to be recognized for that.
They're using Zoom and they're 5.
But the children at 5, they are fearless. You know, they have learned to, you know, when they get cut out of Zoom, they go back in, they learn all of this. And the more they do it, they lose the fear. And I think that there are some things that are happening actually through this instruction in Zoom. I'm sorry to go on. But I just want to say to Nicole and to David, we might think as educators how we might keep some of these things. Because for instance, my grandson, he has to, every week, he has to videotape himself explaining a math concept or explaining a book chapter or whatever. So when they videotape themselves, they have to be very, very, you know, sure about the content and how they're going to express themselves. That doesn't always happen for everyone in the classroom, but now it's happening. Everyone in the classroom is responsible to do that. So I'm just saying, we've learned something about using technology in a very special way where all the kids have an opportunity to grow in those areas that we didn't have before. And I'm sorry for going on, but this is the Commission of Education, isn't it?
Yeah, well, what a better place to talk about it. Cool. So we have 2 for Natalia. Commissioner Llamas or Commissioner
Natalia, she has my vote.
Got it. All right.
I
Cool.
win. Just kidding.
All right. So I would like to put a motion forward to accept Mia and Natalia as our February San Fernando Student of the Month winners to be awarded our next City Council meeting in February, or second City Council meeting in February. Can I get a second?
A second.
All right.
You've all the
Second
seconds.
You have double seconds.
Okay. And maybe briefly, as it's on the table right now, I know we did receive some gift certificates. Julia, thank you so much for the donation, as well as I believe Commissioner Llamas, you said you're willing to as well. So we'll stick with horchataria just for this sake. I think a kid would really like to have a horchata and churro. But if you guys have any other ideas on any local businesses to support, I think Sweetness would have been a fantastic one. But you know, they no longer around. If you guys can think of any other businesses that could use our support, that, you know, high school or middle school or elementary school kids would love to go to, shoot those ideas forward.
And they're $5.
And then, yeah, so we just have to confirm with the owners or how much it's going to be around $5.
I emailed you,
All right,
Chris,
so-
to see if they do gift cards, but they didn't get back to me. Let's see. Maybe Crave, because I feel like that would be really popular with the teenagers. They have cupcakes and stuff too.
Oh, you know, I just thought about manzanitas,
Mm-hmm.
right? They would love that. Maybe we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take care of all that, and the ad hoc, Commissioner Moore and I will figure that one out.
When is the meeting that this will be at? The Mia and Natalia?
It is, I believe, the 15th or 16th.
You know,
Does President's Day?
my heater went on, so I wasn't able to hear you. Now I understand your question. It's February 16th. Monday is a holiday. City Hall's closed. So our meeting will be on February 16th, Tuesday.
Commissioner Moore, would you mind presenting this time around?
I would really like to present it. I read them and just burst into tears because that's what I do lately. I just cry about everything for no good
I
reason.
get you.
But yeah, I was just like picturing these. My nephew is in first grade and I watched him do Zoom for a week and I just was like, wow, like that is a whole different level of challenging. So I read these about their compliments and telling people, I've got your back, don't be afraid. And I just, so I would very much love to take this month.
And can you also thank the teachers of the kindergartners who, it's one thing to sit on the rug while they're all swirly. It's another thing to keep them, to teach them how to do mute and not make all little faces. So.
Leah, can you let me know when the certificates are ready and I'll see if I can coordinate with the teachers to get them delivered.
Yeah, we'll chat about it.
All right. Anything else for student of the month?
No, I think we need a vote just to approve the.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, so I will call roll for this vote. Commissioner Robledo,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Llamas,
Yeah.
Vice Chair Govea,
Yes.
and Chair Zobel Rodriguez.
Yes.
All right, so motion passes.
Okay. Motion passes. Thank you. General Commissioner comments. Anyone?
Teachers next in line for the vaccine, please get them. Anyone 65 and older, please get them. I would love the opportunity to go back into the classroom. And I think part of that plan is us getting vaccinated. So I know we have a station here in San Fernando to make it local and accessible. But there's also a pod at CSUN and other places you can do it. So just anyone listening, teachers, our students 16 and older, you are eligible to receive the vaccine.
I will just go next then. I will just comment that I can't wait and I will be next in line, right? As soon as we are able. I also wanted to jump on to what Commissioner Robledo was saying about things that have been better. And looking on the bright side of it, I just want to point out that I think that this pandemic has been very good for some of our introverted kids who often feel unheard in their ability to communicate with their teachers via private messages on Zoom and to type things in the chat that they wouldn't always be willing to say aloud. And I've gotten to see kids who I probably wouldn't otherwise see thrive, really thrive. And that has been very nice. And for anyone who is just watching this publicly, hang on, hang tight, don't give up. Tell us when you need help. Tell your teachers when you need help. Parents, encourage your kids that the end is in sight and we will all get through this.
And on that note, I like to say another positive thing that I've seen is even with my own granddaughter, she's not the norm, but all of our kids are not the norm anyway. But she has shared with me that she has been able to focus much more at home on Zoom. And because she's a social butterfly, she doesn't have all those interruptions, those thought interruptions from her friends. So, for some kids, it is working, just like you were saying.
Olivia, do you have any?
Well, along those lines, my grandson graduated last June, and he was valedictorian of his class in San Diego, and he is really not social. So his speech was recorded on the field with his cap and gown, and I'm sure he suffered nothing doing the speech. He was great. And so again, it worked for him, and he just looked wonderful, and he looked at ease, and I've never seen him so happy. So yeah, I think for some of the students who usually just kind of hang back and don't say much, there is a way for them now to, to thrive, and that's what we want. So that's all I'll say.
Okay, very good. The only comments that I have, I know that the letters for the principal's brunch were approved by consent. Joya, are those, when will those be ready for pickup?
They will be mailed from here. I printed the labels.
Oh,
I just need, and I printed the letters. I just need to have it stuffed, which is manageable here, and they will go out in the mail tomorrow.
oh, fantastic. 'Cause I can stuff, I just can't data merge.
There are
If you
only
do-
21 of them,
Okay,
if memory serves me. And so 21 is manageable right now. If there were more, I may have had to call upon you folks.
okay. Very appreciated.
Yep.
All right.
So they're going out in the mail tomorrow.
Awesome, awesome. All right, then staff communication.
So since I'm the staff at this point,
All staff.
city manager has asked that all the commissions are conducted in a more structured manner. With that being said, he would like to have staff reports done for each agenda item that is on the agenda. For instance, tonight, as an example, it would have been just a one-pager staff report for item 2. And in advance, Commissioner Govea would have given me a summary of the 2 students that he felt, that he was nominating. That way, it provides you commissioners the information ahead of time rather than having to make a, on the spot, stressed, decision on which student. This time around, it was easy. However, the more information you have in advance, I think the better decisions can be made, which then puts a little bit more work onto staff, myself. However, I believe the items that we discuss mainly would be a one-pager. This would be the same process as City Council. So a packet can be emailed to you in advance so that you have an opportunity to read whatever type of backup is attached to that one-page staff report. That way, when we're in our meeting, everyone has had the opportunity to, research, read the staff report, and make a decision. And it's just less, I guess, more structure and less over discussion, if I may. I think, I'm not sure, is our we can't say too much on this because it really isn't an agendized matter. But what I will do is perhaps provide an example of what the staff report would look like and what could be attached. And I will send that email to you over the next week or so. And, you know, as this plays out, on the surface, it sounds like a really good plan. But we'll see how this plays out, especially with, you know, the lack of staff right now.
So quick question, Julia. So then what that would look like you said, the council does that, where they send out the reports to the council people ahead of time, so that way they can read over it, like you said, do the research, and then make decisions at the meeting. And if there's any questions at the meeting.
And you commissioners, you can bring, if the staff report or the backup doesn't already answer your question ahead of time, then at that time you can, you know, prepare your notes for the questions that you do want to ask Monday, or I'm sorry, not Monday, but during your commission meeting.
So to give an example, so like say for tonight, how I had the two concerns, would in this type of structure, would I write down the two concerns ahead of time and then send it to you, or is it, or that is not what we're looking at?
That's not what we're looking for, no.
Okay.
I guess because this item that we discussed this evening was more general, there wasn't anything specific that we needed to talk about with regard to the process and any related matters, then it would just be a one-page staff report, and it would just say general discussion regarding the scholarship process. If, for instance, our next meeting, if we are going to put on the table the essays, let's say, that's going to be a little tricky for a staff report. It's going to be very tricky because of how everything is scored, the anonymous, the redaction. There's a lot that will go into that.
Is this something we can, obviously we are not city employees. We do not necessarily have degrees in policy or procedure or anything else. Is this something that we can have some kind of a learning, a study session or something with all the commissioners so that we can all learn how to do this? Because I'm very concerned with obviously the scholarship event that we can certainly, I've used different methods. We were told to use this method of agendizing. Previously, we used the agendized, we would do new business and unfinished business. And then we were told to do commission matters this way so that everything was discussion regarding. So if this isn't going to work and we have to go back to where things are either finished or unfinished, that's fine too. I don't even have a full concept, and I read every packet. I glance through every packet. I don't read every packet, but I glance through the packets when they get released on Fridays. In terms of, obviously with this scholarship, passing them out and deciding them, if you don't know how to do this, we don't know how to do this. But even to be more helpful going forward for Student of the Month or any of the other things that need to be put on the agenda. You know, it used to be that we would get a message that said, this needs to go on the agenda, and it would go on, these are the things that we think need to be on the agenda, let us know, and then we would all submit additional things. If it's now a case where we have to create paperwork in order to have it put on the agenda, then I think all of us as lay people would benefit from some kind of a actual tutorial on how to do how to do a packet and what would entail and for each of the commissions for us to be able to see how ours would differ than a staff report or a presentation from an outside vendor. Because these are all what we're doing is very different. What the Planning Commission is doing looks more like the City Council, but what we do or what Park and Rec does doesn't necessarily look like City Council.
You are absolutely correct. And this is a conversation that I do need to have with Nick, City Manager, as far as how fluid your the Education Commission meetings are. We can throw in some structure and create a staff report for certain items. Okay, so the staff report is all on me, the city clerk. The backup that would be required, as an example for tonight, item number 2, is just a quick verbiage from, just typed up from Commissioner Govea on student 1 and student 2. There's nothing extra fancy that needs to go into it other than these are your options. He would provide the summary of the 2 students, and I then would take that and write the staff report as far as these are the 2 students. Please see attachment A for the summary of the students and the action that you'll be taking tonight.
Because we'd have to give you a whole lot more time too. This wouldn't be us telling you the agenda on Friday. We would actually be thinking of the agenda the way we think of assigning student of the month or teacher spotlight 2 or 3 meetings ahead for City Council. We would have to be letting you know mid-month at the latest.
There would have to be a specific timeline, and I'll have to work on a timeline for that. Typically, information for a staff report is provided about 12 days prior to the meeting date. So I'm working on items for, say, City Council 12 days in advance and every day leading up to the council meeting. We as the Education Commission, we're not quite that heavy load in our staff reports. So I don't think it's going to be necessary to have the 12-day leeway, but I'll have to come up with some sort of activity calendar for us to follow to make it a little bit easier. And that's if you have any other questions.
Yeah, no, we want to, go ahead, Olivia.
Okay, I'm a little bit in a fog here as to why. I guess if we have that tutoring session or workshop or whatever, then we could ask those kinds of questions like, why are we doing this? But is it because there's some legality to this? Why? What is the advantage of having more formality? Is there a reason?
Other than having everything consistent throughout all the commissions, in the way that the meetings are ran, the structure of each commission is a little bit different, and we want to make a consistent way of having these commission meetings, because at this point there really isn't anything consistent. Their agenda might look a little bit different than our agenda. They may discuss things completely out of order. There's a consistency factor. There is a structure factor, as well as following the Roberts Rule of Order. The Roberts Rule of Order basically gives you the information on how the chair is running the meeting, what items or what is the next action that needs to be taken, the order in which you call upon your commissioners to speak. As an advantage, Commissioner Robledo, the advantage is for consistency and structure. Outside of that, I really don't have any other advantages in the consistency and the structure.
Robert's rule, should this be agendized, the conversation? 'Cause it seems like it's getting kind of more granular, or is this okay?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Gouvet, I didn't get that.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering if the conversation should be agendized, because I know we're kind of going back and forth, or is this okay?
I think at this point, we can agendize this conversation for our next meeting. Although I'm still going to provide you with, in advance, an example, so that at least you have something that you're looking at, and during that next meeting, you can ask your questions, and we can have a really more thorough discussion about it.
Yeah, 'cause I'd like to see it agendized, but I'd also like to see where we get some kind of tutorial or some kind of help to be able to do this, because with normally 4 or 5 things on the agenda every meeting, that some things may only have a couple of seconds of conversation. Some of them have more information than that. I want to make sure that we're doing things right, because we are only meeting once a month. So let's definitely have this on the agenda for next month. And if before then the city decides to have some kind of support for us in order to learn how to do this, then I would be very welcome for that.
Okay. I have a question. Julia, does the city manager, does he know what each commission meeting looks like, or the structure that's already in place, or the different ways that they are run, you know, the personality of each commission given the different job assignments? Does he already know? I mean, I'm assuming he's observed the commission meetings.
So I can't answer for him. But again, as you just said, he does watch and views all of the commission, and obviously knows what's going on. So okay. he is aware of that. Okay,
good. So with that, just quick, I'm sure he's probably going to do it already, but him knowing the way each commission meeting runs, it might be helpful for when you have a template for the commissioners, or excuse me, for the chairs to work with, so that way the chairs together as a whole can give input as to what is being requested of them. And then maybe that might even be an adjustment in what a report would look like for a commission. And given what Commissioner Rodriguez had said, you know, they're not public employees who have all this training, mandated training. So maybe that would be really helpful to get input from the commissioners when you discuss this process.
Okay.
May I?
Okay.
Can we perhaps agendize the city manager speaking to us for a moment, if we could put it early in our meeting to ask him to just present to us what he would like from us?
Good idea.
Well, can we ask him to do that, please? Thank you.
So you would like to agendize the city manager for a presentation on
his expectations as to the extent of our staff reports from here on out.
Sure. Okay, that can happen at the next Education Commission meeting as well.
Good.
So right now I have agendizing the discussion and inviting the city manager to answer any additional questions that you may have.
All right.
Otherwise, that's all of the staff communication that I have this evening, which is probably more than you wanted.
Julia, when you leave the office, you might want to hug a tree. Okay, get the energy of Mother Nature. Okay.
There you go. All right. If there's no other staff communications, we are at everybody's favorite point in the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I second it.
All right. First and a second. We need a roll call.
Commissioner Robledo,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Llamas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Govea,
Yes.
and Chair Zobel Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you.
Meeting's
And also a
adjourned at
request
7.
for Julia. Julia, can you call me right now before you leave the office?
I can.
Quick question.
You
I
want-
just have a
okay.
quick question for you.
Yep, I'll give you a call. Meeting's adjourned at 7:38 right now.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good night.